Do you find yourself having to have difficult conversations with your staff, but end up procrastinating on the talk a little bit longer than you should? Then you're going to love this week's business book review. Radical Candor by Kim Scott is one of those books that is packed full of great insights on how to provide feedback to your staff in a clear and honest manner without losing your sense of humanity in the process. I give it a 5 out of 5 head tilts. But remember, as a professional speaker, I'm a bit biased and I tend to love books that have powerful communication tools. For the old school command and control style business owner, this book is likely going to spark a lot of rolled eyes and some heavy sighs, and they'll probably find it to be a huge waste of time, which I think is a shame because those are just the kind of people that I think would probably likely benefit most from this book. This is one of those books that would be applicable from startups to large corporations, but as an entrepreneur, this is one of those books that I feel can accelerate your way through the struggle zones of the entrepreneur's journey. So if you're in that struggling stage, this is going to be particularly beneficial simply because so much of a business owner's struggle can be traced back to poor communication between the team. This book is a deep dive into Kim Scott's communication model for feedback that can be looked at through a 2x2 matrix. The vectors in her matrix are a measurement of how much you care personally for the person that you're speaking to and how direct of a communicator you tend to be. And when you contrast these two factors, you end up with 4 main delivery styles. If you don't really care personally for the person, and you're not a direct communicator, you'll create an environment of manipulative insincerity. If you really do care personally for the person, congratulations, but if you still don't communicate directly, you're only going to produce a slightly better scenario, and this one she calls ruinous empathy. If you're a direct communicator, but you don't care personally for the person, then you'll create an environment of obnoxious aggression. This is the asshole boss quadrant. And while it sounds bad, when you compare it to the other 2 previously mentioned quadrants of manipulative insincerity or ruinous empathy, it's still better than either of those 2. But ideally, you want to be in the upper right-hand quadrant where you can deeply care about the person and you're a direct communicator. Because if that's you, then you'll create an environment of radical candor. This book is the perfect complement to one of my other favorite books on how to have difficult conversations. But before I share that book, here's some excerpts from the book that spoke to me. For every piece of subpar work you accept, for every missed deadline you let slip, you begin to feel resentment and then anger. You no longer just think the work is bad, you think the person is bad. That is what happens in ruinous empathy. You're so fixated on not hurting a person's feelings in that moment that you don't tell them something they'd be better off knowing in the long run. A good rule of thumb for any relationship is to leave 3 unimportant things unsaid each day. When bosses are too invested in everyone getting along, they also fail to encourage the people on their team to criticize one another for fear of sowing discord. They create the kind of work environment where being nice is prioritized at the expense of critiquing and therefore improving actual performance. It's brutally hard to tell people when they're screwing up. You don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. That's because you're not a sadist. You don't want that person or the rest of the team to think that you're a jerk. Plus, you've been told since you learned to talk that if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Now, all of a sudden, it's your job to say it. You've got to undo a lifetime of training. Management is hard. I felt the book had a nice balance between high-level principles on what makes a leader powerful in communication and tactical strategies on how to say what needs to be said. And for years, this book has remained on my top as my favorite book on how to engage in difficult conversations. That was until I read the book From Conflict to Courage by Marlene Chisholm. So Kim now shares that spot with Marlene. I've already reviewed Marlene's book in this series, so to find out why I think her book plus Kim Scott's book becomes the perfect 1-2 punch for becoming the best at having difficult conversations, check out that review as well. Now, if you've liked this review, by the way, I'd be honored if you'd hit the like button and subscribe as well so that when I release another book review, you'll be one of the first to know. And if you enjoyed these reviews, I think you would absolutely love my business book scorecard. It's a free Q&A that takes just a few minutes, and at the end, you'll get a custom curated list of the top 10 books for you based upon where you're at in your specific entrepreneurial journey. You know, the reality is all books can be a 5 out of 5 if you read them at the right time in your business development. So why waste time reading books that don't apply to you? I've already sorted through over 500 business books to share with you the top 10 books that apply directly to you. It's fast, it's free, and the link is inside the description of this video. Until the next time, let's both try a little harder to be a little better. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch that book review. If you liked it, I think you might like this one as well. Check it out.